he ruined it. We recorded it, and he ruined it. We're one day into the year. Chad
Good
ruined
evening,
it.
everybody. Welcome back to Hoops HD's first, second, and third podcast of the season. David, this is our ACC podcast, but I think we did it 2 nights ago. What the hell happened?
You ruined it. I mean, I had a superb performance, and you ruined it.
Well, as we just mentioned, we did record an ACC preview a couple nights ago. We had some technical difficulties. It got lost into the cloud somewhere, I guess. And we are therefore doing our ACC preview. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. Joining us again, Matt Sikowski, John Stalika, Joby Fortson, and the puppet that cannot record anything, David Griggs. As we did the other night, we're going to try to do it again here, and we're going to start with the most important team in the ACC. Of course, that's Duke. No, we do want to start with Duke. And Joby, I want to start with you on this Duke team. A lot of people are picking them preseason #1 overall, and the question is, are they deserving of that?
Yes, I 100% agree with the consensus. I think this Duke team, with the mix of experience that they already have, returning along with an amazing freshman class, this has very much shades of that Kentucky team from just 2 years ago, that while they didn't win the national title, they were a big threat to run the table. And I think that Duke team will be as much of a favorite, though not a certainty, as we saw from Kentucky, as that Kentucky team from 2 years ago.
Well, Duke did lose Brandon Ingram, though. I mean, Matt, are they going to miss him at all?
I think no, just because Jason Tatum's a very similar player, and he can just slot right in for him. Is that kind of three in the big lineup, 4 in the small lineup. And it turns out when we talked Tuesday, I mentioned that Tatum had a foot injury, but it's just going to be a couple-week thing, not going to probably play into the season, or it's just hamper him too much as the year goes on.
And David, when John Calipari took over as head coach at Kentucky, he started using these one-and-dones and really used it to make himself into a national championship contender year in, year out. My question to you is, has Coach K actually beaten him at that game at this point?
You could argue that he has. Coach Krzyzewski has won a national title under that format. You talked about how good that Kentucky team was a few years ago. I think Duke was better. Duke had won at Wisconsin, who was a Final Four team. They beat Wisconsin a second time on a neutral floor in the national championship game, a team that Kentucky failed to beat. And as good as that Kentucky team was, the only protected seed that they beat away from home was Louisville. Duke, I think, had 3 or 4 wins against protected seeds away from home. My biggest knock on Duke generally is that I think they're overrated because they can't beat highly ranked teams away from home, but that year they did. They followed that format, and I think they've actually had not as much credit for it, but more success with it.
John, would you agree with that?
I just wonder if David is thinking about neutral court games away from home, or whether he just thinks about true road games, because the Blue Devils, they always like to play showcase games away from home, usually in New York or an exempt tournament, but they don't play many road games outside of the ACC and Big Ten Challenge.
Yeah, well, that year they went to
Virginia on game day that year.
They went to Wisconsin and won that game. They won. I remember thinking they had beaten 3 or 4 protected seeds in true road games. Now, to John's point, all but one of those was in conference, but Kentucky didn't beat any.
Well, let me kind of throw back to John for one other question. The one player at Duke that we have not discussed is one of your favorites, I know. The guy that's going to be taking another trip around the ACC, as you like to say.
Yep, and this was a year after we thought he might go pro and decided to come back for one more year. So he could be in the company of Christian Laettner and J.J. Redick as one of the most hated players. But let's not forget just how talented he was, or definitely improving from his freshman to his sophomore year, and we can probably expect a similar jump this season.
Yeah, and Joby, you're the one that said this last year. I think you and I both thought going into the season that Grayson Allen was just completely overrated. And I think you said by the end of the year that you were wrong, and I agree with you that, I mean, he put up the numbers last year that were pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, he's a solid player. It's tough, though. I mean, for all those fans watching this out there, it is so tough to get past the fact that the guy is, he's a punk. I mean, he is. He's a punk, but he's a good player. Yeah.
So is Chad. Chad is also a punk.
Gee, thanks.
I mean, you trip a guy once. I mean, you get caught up one time. It's you could see that happening. Twice, you're just a bad person.
At least it wasn't an official, though. I will say that for him.
Okay, we've established that Grayson Allen is a bad person, so I think that's about time we move on.
I like me and Grayson. I mean, we could be drinking buddies, me and Grayson.
Let me throw it over to you, Matt. After Duke, I think who we all agreed when we recorded this first time around was the ACC champion this year. Who is the next best team in the ACC?
I think it's Joby's Cavaliers. That Virginia team, they don't have, I think, any weaknesses. They're deep. And then I think the lack of a star that some people are calling them on, I think Austin Nichols will step into that. London Paratis is a senior. And then one guy I didn't get to mention, I'm glad, I think has a huge junior year, is Mariel Shayok. Because a complete 3-and-D guy and a little bit more offense. I think he expands his game and will be a star, at least relative to as much as you can, in a team that plays at Virginia's pace.
So, Joby, this is your team, so I want to have your thoughts on it as well.
I mentioned, I will echo a lot of what Matt said. If Pinson's health is there, I'd probably go with Carolina, even myself, just because of the wear down. The key to the Virginia team will be, once again, defense. If Austin Nichols, who led the American in block shots, if he can protect the rim like he did at Memphis, and you have that same protect, you'll all of a sudden have your Akeel Mitchell, Darian Atkins component that was missing a little bit last year. If you combine that with what is a more rounded, people like Shayok, Devin Hall, a more rounded team, there could be finally that Final Four trip in Charlottesville.
And what about a guy like Kyle Guy also coming in?
Yeah,
I think he's
Kyle Guy. I mentioned this before. As much as I made my comments just recently on Grayson Allen, Kyle Guy, everybody seems to kind of like, who aren't Virginia fans. Oh, I respect Virginia. It's the Brogdons, it's the Gills, it's the Perantes. I think Kyle Guy is going to make people not really like Virginia. I'm going to love him, but he's Mr. Basketball from Indiana, beat out Indiana for me. He's going to start from day one by all indications. He's the guy. He's J.J. Redick and Grayson Allen rolled up into one. He likes to hold his hand up after making the three, and he wears black socks.
Well, yeah, and then another storyline. Is Tony Bennett on the hot seat this year? Wow, what a job!
Only if his house is on fire and he's asleep.
Right. I mean, part of it too is just the remarkable job that Tony Bennett has done. It's not that Virginia wasn't a story program at all, but in my lifetime, I don't ever recall them being a regular top 20, a regular tournament caliber team, much less a regular top 10 caliber team. I think they're better this year, or they could be better this year than they even were last year. I look at them to land on one of the top two lines again. They're making a habit of that. And as good as Duke is, it wouldn't surprise me if Chad goes through and asks us at the end who we're going to pick to win. My answer is going to be Virginia.
Now we know the puppet is not very old, because he obviously doesn't remember the days of Ralph Sampson and Jeff Jones, Jeff Lamp, among others.
I was drunk, though. It was the 80s.
John, let me bring in another team here from the ACC. Obviously, the team that played in the national championship game came within a miracle Chris Jenkins 3 of at least going to overtime in that game, and that's North Carolina Tar Heels. Do you think that they're going to be right up there with Duke and Virginia this year?
I still think they definitely have a chance to be in the top 2 or top 3. I mean, they'll still have guys like Justin Jackson and Theo Pinson, although Pinson is not going to be starting the year because of a stress fracture in his foot, so it's going to take a little time for him to come back. Now, North Carolina has an interesting start to the beginning of the year as far as their schedule. They actually go to Tulane on the road, not the neutral arena in New Orleans, but Tulane's on-campus arena. and then they have home games against Chattanooga and Long Beach before they go out to the Maui Invitational.
And
once that's done, they go to Indiana, then they host Radford, Davidson, Tennessee, and then also play Kentucky and Northern Iowa.
I got a scheduling question in relation to Virginia for both John and Joby, I guess. Virginia, again, opening on the road, not against a regional team this time, but in Greensboro. This is obviously some sort of scheduling philosophy of Tony Bennett's. They're always opening on the road, and sometimes it's not necessarily against a brand name team. He's doing it on purpose. I like it. I'm just wondering what you think of it.
You do know why he did that.
I do not.
It's not exactly relevant anymore. He wanted Virginia to have experience on Greensboro's court, which now might not be as important as it once was.
What an interesting say. We didn't cover that in the first episode. Wow.
Whoa. Okay.
The only problem is they're not playing the tournament in Greensboro this year.
Yes.
It's up in Brooklyn.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the first round of the NCAAs.
Okay. And Joey, the next question is, I mean, he obviously likes opening on the road. I like that he likes that. It is sort of against the grain of what a lot of power
and
coaches do. I love it.
Always win. Beat JMU, lost to George Washington.
And the loss to George Washington ruined the rest of their season completely.
Yeah, exactly. That number one seed was worthless because of the loss to Jim. He used to schedule. He underscheduled, and Virginia missed a tournament bid. They were right on the border. You might remember about 6 years ago, and the schedule was part of the problem. And so all of a sudden it was a complete reverse. Now you have home and homes with Villanova, Cal, very solid program. So that's a constant philosophy, and playing locally on the road helps. I mean, it helps your RPI, and it helps prepare your team for the upcoming season. I personally love it, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. And it helps
going by Joby's logic, they still have time to schedule a game in Greenville against Furman, don't they?
Yeah, I'd like to. I would. I'd like that. Yes.
Okay. Well, on that note, let's move on. And David, let me stick with you here. There are 4 teams in the ACC that have been ranked among the top 10 preseason in some polls, and the 4th one is being Louisville. Do you think Louisville is up there with these other 3 that we've just been discussing?
No. Up there, yes. Up there with those 3, no. Those 3 are 2-line, 1-line contenders. Louisville, solid protected seed, not up there with those 3. But I like – don't misinterpret that as me not liking Louisville or thinking Louisville's not good. Louisville is excellent, but they are not national title level team the way those 3 are.
Well, Matt, my biggest problem with Louisville is where they're going to find the scoring, because we know they're going to play great defense.
Yeah, that's what I've got. Nice players that could, like Donovan Mitchell, I think has a very good year. Dagadell didn't do much to freshman, a lot of it because of injury, but he is a ridiculous natural talent. Like, could one day be in the lottery very easily. So one of those 2, and then Quentin Snyder is not a scoring point guard, but it needs to be more of a threat. Kind of, I think, the step that London Parantis took from 2 years ago to last year. Snyder needs to do something similar to where he hits open shots, he can get you 10, 12 a game, along with, I think, the wings that'll give them the scoring. But, on the whole, their roster, I think, is just a little bit stepped down from the top 3. Not a huge one, but a little bit of a step.
There's a couple guys. They got a freshman coming in, VJ King, Penn transfer Tony Hicks. Those may be the guys, Joby, that can possibly stick it up.
I've seen VJ King play. Virginia wanted VJ King, so I watched him I think he'll be able to put some points. I'm not saying they can rely on him, for 20 points a game or something, but he'll be able to help pitch in with the scoring exactly. And Abdel, you're exactly right, Matt. I think he's going to take a jump up.
Well, Joby, beyond those 4, I'll stick with you here. Who do you think the next best team is? And then as we start kind of the next group of teams here in the ACC.
I mean, you know what? Tim Miles is going to really hate me for saying this, but I think it's the Qs. Andrew White is a great addition for them, and the Qs, they are coming off the Final Four, and they lost, to Benjay, Richardson, Cooney. They lost a lot. But I feel like they're bringing in a lot. Tyus Battle is going to do a good job for them, I think, coming in. and Leiden is back. So I mean, they have the pieces.
And they picked up Torian Thompson late in recruiting as well,
Yes,
who I think is going to be huge for them. And that's where I really thought that Syracuse, beginning of July, may not have looked like that great of a team, but you had in Thompson and Andrew White, and they should be better than last year's.
Pascal Chuck Wu.
And also to give our Mountain West guy here a shout out, John. Also, I think John Gillen from Colorado State gives them a needed backcourt piece to go along with Battle and White.
Sort of the Richardson role, you think, Matt?
Yeah, kind of that, or like even the Cooney role of like secondary scorer that can hit some shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean,
I reserve my right to not like Syracuse.
Well, David, I was going to ask you about that because they made the Final Four last year, but other than the win over Virginia, sorry, Joby, they didn't actually pull off an upset really as a 10 seed to get there.
Well, they beat a set. Well, they clobbered a Dayton team that was kind of limping into the tournament. Really good year for Dayton, but I don't think anybody was too surprised to see Syracuse win that one, and then no one was really that surprised to see them beat Middle Tennessee State. And Gonzaga, I thought that Gonzaga led most of that game. They came back to win that. And then, but you're right. Their path to the Elite Eight, if I'm not mistaken, they didn't beat a single-digit seed at any point. Oh, besides Dayton, besides Dayton.
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, it was.
But one of the funny things was in our own selection committee back in March, we did not have Syracuse in our field initially. We had South Carolina until Joby led a virulent lobby against the Gamecocks. So we wound up adding Syracuse, putting in St. Bonnie as a contingent team that also got left out themselves.
And because we were corresponding with the real committee during the championship week reports, the real committee puts them in. So nice going, Joby. Nice going.
Hey, I'm the one who's the most upset about that. 8 minutes from the Final Four.
Careful what you wish for.
John, let me turn back to you here as we get to into these next group of teams. I know there's one team that you like that maybe is not quite as liked as it by anybody else there, and that is this Clemson team. I want to go there next. I know Matt and Joby, you have something else you want to discuss, but John, let me start with you on this Clemson team.
Well, we know about Jaron Blossomgame. He's going to be one of the star players, if not besides Grayson Allen. He has an outside shot at being the player of the year this year. And they do actually have a schedule that's going to be favorable to possibly get them into the NCAA tournament team. They start off the season with Georgia. They play in the Tire Pros Invitational, formerly Puerto Rico, but that got moved to Orlando because of the Zika virus. So they play Davidson. They could play Xavier in Oklahoma, depending on how things shake out. And also watch out for games on a neutral floor against Alabama and Birmingham, and they also have the rivalry game at South Carolina this year.
I like this Clemson team. Defensively, I thought they were pretty tough that last year. I don't expect that to change. In addition to Blossomgame, they also return 2 additional starters that average double figures. They clearly, I think they kind of peaked in the middle of conference play around February or so and then tailed off at the end. But they were noticeably better as the season went along. I think it continues into this season. I think Clemson gets it done this year and finally gets into the field.
Well, I do like the pieces
they also return home to Little John this year. No more 40-minute trips to Greenville.
Yeah, and I do like the pieces they added in, like Elijah Thomas from A&M, Shelton Mitchell from Vanderbilt, even Marquise Reed from Robert Morris could be a solid player for them as well. But Matt, let me turn to you. It's not Clemson, I think, that you have as the next rated team in the ACC, is it?
No, honestly, I really like this NC State.
Oh, there it goes.
Oh, no, I'm trusting Mark Godfrey, which I know is a very dangerous proposition. But man, like when you put with Dennis Smith, Omar Yurtseven, and good pieces around them to complement the 2 newcomers, there's no reason this team shouldn't at least win 22, 23 games, 10 or 11 in a very good ACC, and it'd be a threat to make the second weekend.
Joby, without Cat Barber, does Matt know what he's talking about on this team?
You know what? Smith is a stud in point guard play, but can he become Tyler Ennis? That's essentially what we're saying. Is can he come in, be an impact freshman point guard from word go, because that's what's going to be necessary. Losing Cat Barber, who, the comparison to Blossom game would be Cat Barber. Yeah. For those who don't remember him, because he was on a 16 and 17 team last year.
NC State.
NC State.
Yes.
Yurt Seven's interesting. Terry Henderson's interesting. I think it's one of those middle-of-the-pack ACC teams that will upset somebody along the way, like a North Carolina loss, in Raleigh or something. But I don't know if they have the strength to actually make the tournament and get over that hump. I think there's someone else there that I would pick.
Well, Joby, let me ask you, who is that someone else there that
as
we've kind
much
of
as it pains me to admit, Buzz Williams has done a great job in Blacksburg. He has gotten the depth of talent now. The transfer of Seth Allen has worked out beautifully for him. And when you combine that, Ahmad Hill is going to be able. You're going to know that guy because he's going to be hitting threes. Oh, yeah, but you have Leday on the other side hitting threes. The one weakness, the one big question mark is losing Blackshear. He might come back by February. If that's the case, boy, you plug him in, you might be able to do something. Also, while the cupcake row is just – and John will go into this.
Nice job going to the bakery, Virginia.
Oh, my God, it's awful. But the thing is, they have opportunities in conference, and they're going to need them, as well as the Big Ten Challenge. They're either going to need that at Michigan win. Of course, they're always going to have an at Virginia game because it's a home and home with them. But then they also get at Louisville, at North Carolina. They have to win at least one, if not multiple of those. And if they do, I think it catapults them and erases a lot of the negatives, assuming no losses, to that cupcake schedule.
Yeah, why is that, Joby? Just because they have games against Maine, High Point, VMI, Maryland Eastern Shore, Citadel, Charleston Southern, Maryland Baltimore County? I don't think they need those games.
Those are bottom tier teams in bad.
And don't forget 2 games against Boston College.
Yeah, Boston College twice. But I mean, that's why they're going to need those road wins. If those games were won at home, let's say hypothetically they do have Duke at home, but let's say it was reversed and they got their wins at home against Louisville and North Carolina and Virginia. That would look good, but then it's like, home cooking. If they can win on the road, if they can win in Charlottesville, or if they can win in Chapel Hill, which they've done before, I think that'll, when you combine it with what I think will be somewhere in the neighborhood of they should be undefeated out of conference barring the Michigan game, and a solid 11-7 sort of record in the ACC. When you combine all of that, I think that they will be a threat to be in the tournament.
Yeah, but Virginia Tech is seeing this horror movie too many times with Seth Greenberg.
Yeah. That's why the road games are important. I'm stressing it over and over again.
Matt, I know you want to discuss Virginia Tech too.
I was just saying, there's one name I want to mention. I didn't realize the Blackshear news. That hurts, but watch for Chris Clark. If you talk about your Buzz Williams 6'6", 6'7" energy guys, are just all over the floor in that. Mm-hmm. That kid's next in line there, and now without Blackshear, he'll have to play 30 minutes a night, but I think you can handle it. You put Leday in as a little bit of an undersized 5, and I think Buzz, you can compensate for going small. He's been a living at playing small lineups that are just still a pain to play against.
David, I want to ask you a question about another team here that it seems every time this year we always are not that certain about them, and somehow they end up making a run and making some noise in the NCAA tournament, and that's Notre Dame. Are they going to do it again this year? Like they've done like they seem to do every year, quite honestly.
I'm really not seeing it this year. I mean, they return like 2. Beecham's back, and I think Cotson's back. Those are both pretty good players. Yeah.
Bastoria is huge.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I'm thinking no, but I thought that they would kind of decline a little bit last year, and they didn't. They finished strong. We're right back in the Elite 8. I can't help but think that they're taking a step back this year, though.
Well, Joby, I mean, is Mike Bray maybe underrated still as a coach? I mean,
I think he's underrated as a coach. I mean, he's now made his NCAA tournament run. That was always a complaint, and he's a regular guy there, but a regular presence in the tournament, that is. But I'm kind of where David is. The key to that team, everybody wanted to focus on the household name type guys, but it was August. He was their lone big man. He stood up against the Carolinas of the world, etc. And without him, I think they're in trouble on the inside. As I said, Vasturia is going to become one of these Notre Dame guys who hits threes like they're going out of style, all the time.
Yeah.
But,
hasn't he been at Notre Dame since Matt Doherty was coaching there?
Yeah, exactly. He's one of those guys. Compton was the same way. And so, I think, unfortunately, though, for Notre Dame is they're going to really be beat up when they play up against like Kenny Meeks and Hicks at North Carolina and Jefferson at Duke and Nichols at Virginia. I mean, there's just no way they can't compete.
And to walk back a little bit, what I said earlier, I mean, they can't compete against those teams, but those losses really aren't going to hurt them.
They need some wins to get there because John, did they repeat? I don't know their schedule by memory, but did they repeat their great 300 plus out of conference schedule?
Yeah, they still have the Dolly Madison Bakery here. They got I'm looking at BC, but Notre Dame still has Bryant, Seattle, Loyola Maryland, Chicago State, NC A&T, Colgate, St. Peter's.
Yeah, but John, they also do schedule Villanova, they scheduled Purdue, they scheduled Iowa, they scheduled Colorado. They have chances, a lot more than Virginia Tech has.
Well, Purdue wasn't really scheduled for them. That's part of the
Doesn't
Crossroads
matter as long
Classic.
as they're on the schedule, though.
Right.
I will give you Villanova, though, although that game is being played in Newark, New Jersey.
Why?
I think it's part of the inaugural 9/11 Classic.
Oh, okay.
Penn State and Pittsburgh is also going to be part of that doubleheader.
Well, before we get to Pittsburgh, who you just mentioned, Matt, one of the team that I think has a real shot at making the NCAA tournament this year that we haven't discussed yet is Miami. And I think they've got a great backcourt. I think the question may be in the front court there.
The one with Miami, though, they have, I think, some nice guards, but who's going to be the facilitator of that group? I mean, Jaquan Newton's a scorer. Davon Reed's a scorer. The kid they have coming in who's really good, Bruce Brown, is more of a scorer. Like, they're all nice players, but all those guys consider like twos and threes. Who's the point guard of that group? Who's going to like set his teammates up? And
Angel Rodriguez was huge. Yeah. I mean, you're right, Matt, 100%. Who's Angel Rodriguez?
They got a kid coming in, Chris Likes, but he's not coming in until next year. In the meantime, they don't have a guy, I think, this year at point guard. And I think if we're talking ACC tournament teams out of Florida, I'm looking to Tallahassee.
Well, let's turn to Tallahassee and
did you see what Florida State did tonight?
David, what did Florida State do tonight?
In the first 5 minutes of the game, they had used 10 players. And that's really all I saw after that. I'm assuming they blew out whoever it was.
Okay.
But, I mean, it seems like – I know you can't read too much into exhibition games, but it seems like they're trying to create a rather deep bench.
Well, they do have – Joby, they do have Xavier Wraithon-Mays and Dwayne Bacon there.
Bacon is solid.
We
say this about them every year. They are we haven't – I think we're sick – well, usually we would. I think we've been burned too many times by them. They are always that, okay, we have our elite teams, and we have a team like Syracuse this year who's, clearly a solid tournament level type team. He goes, who's that team that makes the run? Well, you heard NC State and Virginia Tech thrown out and Clemson thrown out. Usually Florida State would be the consensus for that. But Leonard Hamilton has burned us way too many times. I mean, he's bringing in Jonathan Isaac, who's going to be a stud. We've seen this type of stud come in before, like White or whoever. They will get some wins. They'll get some losses. We'll be talking about them in March, and they will be left out by about 6 or 7 spots.
Are we talking? Okay. Because every year for the last 3 or 4 years, at least the last 3, at the beginning of the season, I have been pumping up Florida State. Not so much as a dark horse, because I don't think you can call a team that's supposed to be good a dark horse, but as a team that I thought would be good. And I could easily look at Florida State this year, look at their roster, look at their personnel and what they have, and make an argument as to why I think they will be good. But I'm not going to do that because after 3 years in a row, I'm tired of making that argument and being wrong. I'm never wrong. Chad is always wrong. I'm always right, except with Florida State.
Well, now David having said that, I'm now going to guarantee Florida State makes the field because.
There you go. I mean,
but John, you mentioned them a bit ago. Let's go back to this Pitt team with Kevin Stallings coming in after coaching at Vanderbilt for about 500 years. Is he the right guy to turn this program to get this program back into the NCAA tournament after disappointment last year?
Oh, I can't wait to hear this answer.
I don't know if he gets there in year one, but one of my hopes is that he'll be able to improve Pittsburgh's non-con schedule because that was also another trip to Dolly Madison's Bakery under Ben Howland and also Jamie Dixon. I mean, this year they do have a few decent games against SMU as well as either Marquette or Michigan in the 2K Classic. And then they also have the Penn State neutral game I mentioned, but they also have a trip to Maryland as part of the Big Ten and ACC Challenge. But not much after that.
Well, you're defending Ivy League champs in Yale, but Yale's probably not going to be as good this year. But David, I think you have some comments about Pittsburgh.
I'm just not. I'm not that big on them. I don't think they get there this year. I actually like Kevin Stallings as a coach more than most people. I think that he wasn't as good as most people thought he should be, but he still did really well. He had some really good teams at Vanderbilt. I could see him doing really well at Pittsburgh, but not so much this year.
Well, Matt, my biggest problem with Pittsburgh is not so much what they've got down. I mean, I think I like Artis and I like Michael Young. I don't know who's the guards are. I don't know who the backcourt is.
I know they have Cameron Johnson's kind of like a nice guard, wing player.
A nice guard. But an ACC level guard.
I think he's okay. I just worry more about point guard. That's where you can put Johnson at the 2 because that front court's really good with Artis and Young. And I think funny, Kevin Stallings' old friend Sheldon Jeter.
Yep.
If you're looking for a silver lining for Pittsburgh, their senior class has never lost a game to Syracuse after, I think, 5 tries.
Well, Joby, on beyond Pittsburgh, we got 3 teams left. Anybody else that they think that can make the field of Wake Forest, Georgia Tech, and that team in the Northeast?
I mean, this is the junk part of the show,
right?
And the question is, boy, how many wins will these 3 compile? And instead of asking who do you think is going to win the conference, I almost want to say who do you think finishes 13th, because that's going to be an ugly.
Well, let me ask you that question then. Who finishes 13th?
Wake. They lost everybody, but I think Danny Manning's better than Pastner and the tire fire that's in Boston.
Matt, do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. I think Wake is, a step below the top 12 teams who are all, going to win 7 or 8 conference games. I think Wake wins 5 or 6 because there's some pieces there. John Collins, Darrell Moore. Brian Crawford's actually a real nice point guard. He's probably a top half ACC point guard.
And Mitoglu down the forward.
Mitoglu?
Yeah.
Out
of those 3, it's Wake.
Well, David, Josh Pastner was always one of your favorite head coaches when he was at Memphis. How is he coaching at Georgia Tech now? How did he get that job?
Well, see, Georgia Tech hires bad coaches. They make bad decisions, and that's how he got there. Georgia Tech, they're a power program in a big city with a lot of, that kind of likes basketball. I don't understand why they're so pitiful. There's teams out there that I always feel that should be better historically, and Georgia Tech's one of them. And to hang on for Brian Gregory as long as he did, Brian Gregory, great guy, not necessarily a good bench coach. Josh Pastner, great guy. I like him as a person, and I don't. I almost feel a little bit bad making fun of him all the time, but not really because it's just so much fun. But he is a horrible bench coach, and you just wonder, this program couldn't have done better. Like Chris Beard, look at the coaches that were available last year that you would have think Georgia Tech could have gotten. Chris Beard, the guy whose name escapes me at UNC Wilmington.
Maybe Matt McCall from Chattanooga.
Yeah, Matt McCall from Chattanooga is one. Chattanooga is going to be really good this year. I'm blanking on North Florida's coach all of a sudden.
Driscoll.
Yeah, Matt Driscoll, associate head coach at Baylor before going. These are all people that are better than Josh Pastner. They called me. I wasn't interested. And then their next choice was Josh Pastner.
By the way, that's Kevin Keats at UNC Wilmington.
Yeah, Keats, thank you.
The only thing, the Louisville stink of their whole thing might be holding Keats back for another year or two. Once that gets resolved, I expect to see him take a step up to at least maybe like an A-10 level school.
Well, Joby, I have one last question regarding the ACC for you here. It's not it's not going to be how many wins Boston College is going to have, which you've already just told us. It's
One.
Is there any way to fix Boston College? I mean, on a serious note, they've been the laughing stock of the major conferences for years now.
Well, I mean, we've in particular in this group had laughing stock increased because of Lee Del Vecchio, but he's put a laser focus on what he calls Fredo, but from his UConn glasses. But the fact of the matter is, Boston College isn't really that much different from Georgia Tech, if you really break it down, except Boston is a better basketball city than Atlanta. I mean, Boston, yes, there are other schools in Boston, but you're not picking kids off, off the playground to go to Harvard. I mean, plain simple.
But I mean, they should have the pick of the Northeast. It should be them and UConn battling for them.
Yeah, and I truly believe that Boston College can be saved. But we've seen hopeless cases turn around when you're based in a good area before. I think there will be one day because Boston College was a regular tournament team just 15 years ago.
I mean, under the Al Skinner days, they were still good for a while there.
Going back to Tom Davis and Jim O'Brien, they would occasionally make the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 just by accident.
Yeah. And I like Jim Christian when he was at Ohio before this. But he just has not been a great guy there.
Yeah, and he's I don't. Oh boy. Yeah, they are so bad. They are pitiful. We're going to talk about a team a little bit later that's even worse, not an ACC team. But.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up here with the question that I'm going to ask each of you now, which is, number one, who wins the ACC regular season title? Regular season, not tournament. And secondly, how many ACC teams do make the NCAA field? Matt, let me start with you.
So I'm saying Duke is the winner by maybe like a game or maybe two over Virginia. And I am high. I say 10 ACC tournament teams.
10. John.
10.
I'm going to take Duke to win the ACC regular season and tournament up in Brooklyn. I'm going to say 7 ACC teams. It's going to be Duke, North Carolina, Virginia, Louisville, Syracuse, and 2 out of 3 from either Clemson, Virginia Tech, or Florida State.
No love for Miami or Notre Dame from Stalika. Joby.
Not in this cycle.
I'm matching John on that. Duke. I think Duke can do the double precisely because it's in the Barclays Center. If it was in North Carolina, I'd be probably putting on the Tar Heels or maybe the Hoos. And the 7 are the John 7, but I would feel stronger about, as you heard me say earlier, Virginia Tech and Clemson.
David.
I put the over/under at 7.5. It's going to be either 7 or 8. NC State will not be there. NC State, I think, has finished the regular season ranked in the top 25 just once. I know they've gotten into the NCAA tournament and made some good runs, but I'm just not big on them. But yeah, the big 4 that we mentioned: Duke, Louisville, North Carolina, and Virginia being protected seeds. Virginia is my pick to win the conference. Already said that. And I like Clemson to get in. And, I kind of like Notre Dame. Notre Dame, Florida State. I shouldn't go with them. And who is my other team? Who am I forgetting?
Miami.
Virginia Tech. Thank you.
Right. I am going with Duke to win it all. I've got 8 teams in. I definitely think Duke, Carolina, Virginia, Syracuse, Louisville, Vatech. 2 out of 3 between Miami, Notre Dame, Clemson, NC State, Florida State. Enjoy the NIT. But on that note, on behalf of Matt Sikowski, John Salika, Joby Fortson, David Griggs. Thanks for joining us for ACC Preview Take 2, and we'll talk to you again real soon.